Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only for they bomb. They shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one makes fun. Trees, laugh to your face, fight and die. Cause God forgives. Selling lies and buying time, killing people next in line. Lower classes, social side, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. See the shit, force a bear. Fuck them back, that's only fair. They bomb, they shoot, they kill, they massacre, rape. They burn the kids, no one leaves countries. Lie to your face, fight and die, cause God forgives. Yeah. Coming back around again.
Okay, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Ron Stevens. This is a Rockin' Boat right here on UCY.TV, and I'm your host for the next 2 hours. It is now March the 5th, 2017, and we have got to keep moving forward here. Anyways, before I get this going too much, I want to put in, I think I put him into the show last night. Pretty sure I did anyways, over at Revolution Radio. But there's a couple of things here that I want to get people to understand. And well, the first one here is from Canada. And it's a gentleman by the name of Derek Moran. You can find him on Facebook. I don't know where else you can find him. I need to get him on the show someday. But he, unlike me, he's luckier than I am. I live, it would take me 2.5 hours to get to the Toronto Police Board meeting. And they got me walking right now. That, I don't know, it was a cat jumping on me. So Derek's lucky because he lives in Toronto, so he has access to these things. Now, Derek, at one point, they kept introducing him as Mr. Moran or Mr. Derek Moran, and he finally convinced them that he was in fact not a legal entity, and he was not in fact a person, and that they should quit addressing him as such. So this last meeting, this one that I'm going to put in the chat, the mayor's a lawyer, and they have 2 lawyers at the meeting, and they just, when it's Derek's turn to speak, they just say Derek, no Mr., which is a title, and no Moran, which is the surety name, which makes you accountable and liable. So at least I got that part straightened out. And, you know, Mary John Tory, he was the one that originally did it. So it wouldn't have been a police board hearing. It was another hearing, and Tory, who is the mayor of Toronto, finally said, fine, Derek. Thank you very much. So he's established that at the police board hearing, that he is a man, and that's a huge step. Now he is a very articulate, and he's a very good researcher. And, you know, he understands these enacting clauses, which are not in our Provincial Offences Acts. The Provincial Offences Act have absolutely no authority over anybody except for the corporation and those who work for the corporation. But what they did was they went and incorporated us. They turned us into the incorporated inhabitants making up the body corporate. And that's how they snag you. So Derek's been through all this. A very interesting piece here because at the end, the chair asked if anybody has any questions. Nobody ever has any questions for Derek. The best thing to do with Derek is just shut up. Don't ask Derek questions. He gets 5 minutes. Bang, you're out of here. The other people get 5 minutes, but it drags on. Some of these people who have nonsensical stuff to mention, or they're looking for cash from one of the boards because they want to start a new NGO to push the globalist program forward. They get all kinds of time. But Derek, 5 minutes, you're out of here. But in this particular clip, Derek is finished, and then the chair asks if anybody has any questions, and nobody has any questions. So Derek comes back to qualify that the lawyers can only interact with a person. And so they sit there very quiet, the lawyers, because they can't interact with Derek because Derek's not a person. Derek's not a legal entity. They've already qualified Derek as a man by getting rid of the Mr. and the Moran. So it's very interesting. And it goes back, we have a recording from the head of security of the Attorney General's office, who was a Toronto police officer, who states very specifically in the recording that you don't need a license. And Derek just reiterates this in this particular video. So I'm going to put that in because it's important. There's a lot of important stuff going on right now, but that is particular of importance. And then the next two I'm going to put in are from America, I will call it. I won't call it the United States. We'll call it America. This first one here is basically why you can't, or why it's so difficult to hold a public official accountable. And this gentleman is a elected rep of something, state rep, county rep, I don't know what the hell he is, or municipal rep. But anyways, he is an elected official, and he really opens up the door to the fraud going on, and it is well worth a listen. In particular, there's one of the gentlemen on the board who attempted to take some public officials. He's a public official too, and he tried to take some public officials. I think it was something to do with a hospital to task. So he went through the thing that everybody else has to go through, and he went to the court and filed the papers, of which he had to pay the filing fees, and then he had to pay the sheriff to deliver the claim, but it was never delivered, and so it just gets stonewalled. So how does it one, get at a public official? And this is the whole problem. You see this all the time in the police with the politicians. They never seem to be held accountable because they put themselves in a position where they're not accountable. You're the accountable party. They're a company. And this rep spells this out very well. It's a corporation. And you're the account. So they're the board of directors of the corporation, and you're their account. That's why they're always sticking their hand in your pocket. But they are not accountable. And this spells out pretty well a lot of what's going on here in order that they protect themselves. And so this is very interesting, and everybody should watch it and pass it around to others. So this isn't some what they say, one of these free men on the land. This isn't the board can't go at this guy like he's nuts, okay? Because he's an elected representative. So even though he's really explaining what so many others have explained in the past, this one tends to hold more credence because this guy's an elected official. So it's very important that you understand how these things operate, because these are not even though he's an elected rep, these people represent the corporation. They do not represent the voter. And you never voted because you can't vote. Only the legal entity can vote, and that ain't you. You vote as a proxy for that legal entity. So people think they have representation. They don't. And any time that a rep, usually a elected official or whatever, stands up, they're going to get trashed. So this guy's 86 years old, and this is the other important part of this thing. This guy is 86 years old. And then he's coming at him with both barrels. And I'm sick and tired of people saying, oh, I'm too old. And these are people in their 50s and 60s. I'm too old. By the time they get this all put together and drag us down into the ground, I'll be dead and gone. Bite me. There's an 86-year-old man still working. My attitude is if you're breathing and you can speak, then you have a duty to do so. Period. There are no excuses. We in the West are so busy wandering around with our heads up our asses and looking the other way and doing everything in our power not to see what's right in front of our frickin' faces. It's absolutely disgusting. I never seen a group of people make more excuses for doing nothing than the people in the West. It's bloody pathetic. Now, this third one, this gentleman, there's several videos regarding this. This is, I think, the second one. And I believe this is in 2017, so it's very recent. And he won't cross the bar. This is the same elected representative. He will not cross the bar. And he got busted for driving while under suspension. And the guy knows his history, and he's taken this to the wall. Now, it's amazing because he just ain't crossing that bar. Now, the judge tries to coerce him to cross the bar by saying, because he don't hear as good as maybe he might want to, and the judge is a hell of a long ways away from that bar. And so she invites him in and says, well, we'll ignore the fact that you actually came in here. We'll pretend you're still out there. I'm just doing this. I'm just offering this to you so that you can be more comfortable. You can sit down. You got a table and a chair, and you can spread your papers around. It'd be easier for us to talk. And he ain't going for that either. So he's not easily conned. He understands the misuse of language to a T. He keeps pointing it out to the judge, the misuse of her language. He said he's traveling in an automobile. An automobile is a consumer product. She said, so what you're saying is that you don't need a license to operate a motor vehicle. That's not what I said. Right? So this, I mean, if you've been in court, you know how ridiculous these things are. So when you get some time, please give this a listen to too. And I think one of the most important parts is that this guy's 86 years old, which means none of the rest of us have an excuse. None of us. And if we're waiting for someone to fix it for us, well, we're idiots. That's what's been going on for way too long, waiting for somebody else to fix it for us. We're the responsible party, and we need to fix it. So it's good. Exactly. Here's a note from 8Hawks in the chat. The older I get, more I appreciate that old wisdom. Exactly. We were all the time we spent in school was just a total waste of time. Total waste of time. We were taught nothing of any use. We were taught basically to stay in the child position. We never were allowed to become really what you would call men. We were put the state put a ring in our nose and led us around blindly our entire youth, then put us to work and kept us busy, and no time and lots of distractions, lots of entertainment and stuff, lots of distraction to keep us away from what we really need to understand. I mean, I can put a picture on Facebook. I put a picture of the Premier of Ontario with fangs, which is kind of funny, a lesbian with fangs. But you get 20, 30, 40,000 hits. I mean, it's a stupid picture. But if I put up a document that people really need to read, you get 1,800, 2,500 hits on it. And that's what they've done to us, for the most part. Most people don't want to read nothing. They don't want to think. They just want to watch things like little children. In fact, when we were 12 years old, I think we had more on the ball than most adults have now. We were, we were experimenting with stuff all the time. We were building stuff all the time. This is when I was 12 years old, 11, 10 years old, 9 years old. We were curious, and they've sucked the curiosity out of people. And we just go along to get along. Well, we're spinning down the toilet, and I guess we'll all be getting along as the swirl goes down the pipes. But there's some good men out there, and when I say men, I also mean women. I just don't want to keep repeating that all the time. There's some very good people out there, and more people are gaining more knowledge every single day. And we got to stomp. But most of these so-called leftists, right? I mean, the right is left and the left is left. It's all left. It's all left. This right-left shit was just to keep you distracted again, keep you fighting amongst each other. But both of these entities, the right and the left, have been both moving us in the same direction all the time. Using a little different language, a little different operations, but always moving us in the same direction. And it ain't good. Now, we're basically living under international law. Now, I heard Donald Trump. I didn't hear him. I don't spend much time looking at Donald Trump, but I saw something somewhere that Donald Trump wants to exit the United Nations. Great. Fantastic. Because your nation, America, and my nation, Canada, we're all under international law. And international law, for all intents and purposes, is a UN law. Now, I was reading last night on Revolution Radio a piece from the UN, and, we didn't accede to the 1954 convention or covenant. But because we're member states of the United Nations, they keep writing stuff. Their lawyers keep writing stuff So you may not have acceded to this, but you agreed to this, which has reference back to what you didn't accede to, so we trapped you again. And it all goes back, the Bible, the international Bible at this point in time is the United Nations Universal Human Rights Doctrine. And that is everyone has the right. And like I was reading last night, they read this, everyone has the right, regardless if you're in a country legally or not. So they fire up these sanctuary cities to house the illegals who have the right. Because according to universal human rights, which every country is attached to, everyone has the right to adequate housing, food, education, health, yada, 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 yada. And so it's bad enough that we who live in these nations are busting our asses trying to keep food on the table and a roof over our head. Now we're on the hook to make sure that the people that aren't even supposed to be in our nations have adequate food, housing, clothing, medical, social assistance, and yada, yada, yada. But this is all through the United Nations, all international law. Now, the only way out of this, the only way to get our nations back is to give the United Nations the middle finger, or in fact, give them two middle fingers, one off each hand. There used to be a guy who used to love, he was an engineer, a retired engineer. He used to be on Facebook, but they killed him a long time ago. They didn't kill him physically, but I don't know if they did or not. They killed his account anyways. But he knew what the hell he was talking about, and he was, and at the end of every single video, he was the most unassuming guy. You know, if you met the guy in the street, there's no way you would possibly think this guy had a clue or would be doing videos like he did. They were quite good videos, actually, and this is, I don't know, 8-10 years ago. But at he blamed the Zionists in Israel, and you got to understand that there would be no Israel if it hadn't been for the First and the Second World War. The wars were not about making peace. The wars were about creating their world government and the state of Israel. And people always say, oh, how is it? Because if Israel is a member of the United Nations, how come the United Nations keeps putting these things down on Israel saying you can't do that, and Israel just gives them the middle finger? How come Israel never pays any attention? Because they're partners in crime here. That's why. They're partners in crime. People go, oh, the United Nations, I see this all the time. So the United Nations sucks, but not Israel. Read some history. Or at least understand some history. World War I, which is basically right after the Fed was established. World War I, what was it for? It was to create the League of Nations and the State of Israel. And it failed because the American people refused, even though Mandel House, who was a son of a bitch, that was the trigger on the Fed, the creation of the Fed, the passing of the Fed. This treasonous piece of garbage is running around the states, around America, warning people that if we didn't sign on to the League of Nations, there would be another major world war in not too long a period of time. How the hell would he know that? Simple. As they sat his ass down, they said, House, get out there and shake the bushes and get this signed. Because if they don't sign this, we're going to do it again. Well, America didn't sign on. Another depression, another world war. And they finally got what they wanted, the United Nations and the State of Israel. Now, to create these two bodies cost hundreds of millions of lives. And now our nations are member states of the United Nations, which wants world government. Now, they killed millions of people, hundreds of millions of people, in order to get the United Nations and Israel established. Now, can you just imagine what their plan is for you if we continue to give them what they want? Now, this very body says the world is way overpopulated, that you and I and your mom and dad and your brothers and sisters, we are a threat to the earth. And so they want the population reduced by 2/3, 3/4 of what it is now. Then the question is, why are nations member states of the United Nations? Because you have a lot of weak people, you have a lot of Marxists, and so on and so forth. They're trying to build a utopia. You're paying for it. You're paying for your own demise. And they got a gun at your head. And yet we remain member states of the United Nations. This has to stop. So while they say our domestic laws remain, they have us tagged through their international law to supersede our domestic laws. Because everyone has the right. Well, you don't, but everyone else does. This goes back to the redistribution thing, okay? They're dragging us down until we beg for their next hit, which is the universal guaranteed income. Now, see, you're not just trying to keep a roof over your head, you're keeping a roof over the heads of the people who aren't even supposed to be there. The debt loads over the top can never be paid off on purpose. You have served your purpose. Okay, you were the collateral for the loans. You're on the hook for the loans. But the loans can never be paid back regardless. It can't be done. So, if you can't pay the loan off, if I'm a corporation and I cannot recoup the loans, at some point I'm going to write them off. There's no point chasing you. You got no equity left. Now, just like they bankrupted the states and Canada in the past, and then turned you into the surety for the loans, we're at the next phase of this, which is basically this time it's a global bankruptcy. And the IMF and the World Bank are basically members of the United Nations. They're agencies of the United Nations, not totally tied, but tied tight enough. And so we're going to call it, because you can't pay it off. Never. They want less people on the planet. What they would need about 10 times the number of people working steady in order to even make a dent in the debt. So that ain't going to work. So you served your purpose. You've now become not an asset, but a liability. And a corporation always cuts its liabilities loose. That's you. So how are we going to pay the debt off? Well, we'll forget the debt. The people can't pay the debt. So we'll just control all the resources on the planet. And from control of all those resources on the planet, we will offer everyone the universal human rights. Because you all signed on to it. And everyone has the right to adequate. Everyone. Regardless if you're in a country illegally or not, everyone has the right to adequate water, education, food, clothing, and an adequately miserable life. This goes back to basically I mean, if you kind of look at 1984, Winston and them sitting in a cafe or whatever, and they're smoking. I don't know if they were. I think they were Victory cigarettes and Victory gin. Adequate. Garbage smoke, garbage gin, garbage food, garbage housing, living in little concrete things where the cameras are on you all the time, no privacy whatsoever. And that's basically what they're building for us. Now remember, Orwell, not his real name, but his father was in the upper bureaucracy in England. So it's not really a fiction book at all. It's a roadmap. And so everywhere will be the same. Everyone will be equally broke, except for the hierarchy that is running your life. And they will dole out what they determine to be adequate based on the population and the availability of the resources. Well, they already told us we're using a planet and a half or 2.5 planets of resources. It can't sustain it. And therefore, there's only one solution. Some of you got to go bye-bye. In fact, most of you got to go bye-bye. So why people are bitching and complaining and yipping about left and right is totally beyond me. That's the noise. That's keeping you distracted. Go take a look at the big plan, where everyone is equal and everyone is entitled to adequate, and we control it all. We control it all. Now, when I was looking at one of the documents, I think I read part of it here during the week. George Hunt. I'll just go there first. George Hunt. I love that when he did that. He said, "There's the earth. There's the hands." It says, "In our hands." And George goes, "Whose hands? Whose hands? Certainly not our hands. In the hands of those that created the United Nations and Israel. That's whose hands. Why in the hell would we allow them to hold all the assets of the world and then tell us what we're going to get?" Total craziness. But in the document, see, we have this we movement too, right? They bring in, they brought it up here to Al Gore to Toronto. They bring the school kids in. They call them we conferences or something. They bring in little school kids, and they get it all jacked up like a revival meeting or something. And it's called we. And if you go back in, I think it was the 80s, with all the famous musicians, Michael Jackson, and just name them, whoever was Madonna, everybody. We are the world. Who the hell are we? We are the world. Who's we? Now, in that document I was reading, they always have every municipality, which is every city, town, state, whatever. I hope I still have that open. Are yammering on about vision statements and that. These are templates from the United Nations. These people do not have visions. And every single one of your city managers or CAOs, same thing. This is the administration behind the elected officials, which sets the agendas. The elected officials set nothing. And these city managers and or CAOs are educated in how to implement the globalist agendas into your communities without you or the council even realizing what the hell is going on. So each of these places is sent a vision statement, and the city manager or the administration says, we need to get a vision statement. And they play off of each other. Look at the town down the road. They're getting a vision statement. We should have one too. Oh, good idea, says the mindless little puppets you call your elected officials. And pretty soon they're filling out these vision statements. But the United Nations, international templates. And then they get consensus, and then it becomes law, and go from there. Oh man, I got so much open here. Where is that? Anyways, one of the documents I had out was about implementing. Oh, that would be the Hamilton thing, right? Okay, okay, now I know what I'm looking for at least. Where is that? Immigration citizenship, honorable, contact the mayor, London City Directory, Hamilton City Directory, Steel Tank Sanctuary. Maybe this is it here. Yeah, okay. But in each of these, between each page, between every page is the same message. It says our vision. Whose vision? Now, our is spelt all capitals. That's the title. Our vision. Vision is spelt normally, but our is spelt capital O, capital U, capital R. Vision. To be the best place in Canada, take Canada out and put your country in there. To raise a child, promote innovation, engage citizens, subjects, slaves, and provide diverse economic opportunities. That's our vision, but I don't know who our is because that's a title. Next line down, and this is between every single page. Our mission, capital O, capital U, capital R, mission spelled normally. And then it goes on, we, capital W, capital E. We provide quality public service that contribute to a healthy, safe, and prosperous community in a sustainable manner. Our values, again, our spelled all caps. Accountability, cost consciousness, equity, excellence, honesty, innovation, leadership, respect, and teamwork. Well, I'm just about to make you gag that one. But this is between every single page of this document. Our, okay, so our, I suppose, is the corporation. And we, I guess, is the corporation. But this is a United Nations template. So again, whose vision? We know it's not the vision of those in the City Council of Hamilton. We know that for a fact. If you ever sat down and talked to city councilors, I mean, you're talking to knuckleheads. Very uninformed, and for the most part, willfully ignorant, but with an ego. Which is very easy to manipulate. So it's a UN vision, the mission, and we, the United Nations, the globalists, the international corporates, we will provide quality service that contribute to a healthy, safe, and prosperous community in a sustainable manner. In other words, we own everything, and we will give it out as we see fit, and you will receive adequate this, that, and the other thing. But we decide, not you. Not your nation, not the men and women of your nation, but we. We who set this massive global scam up. Our values, accountability, cost consciousness, right? That's, they're the accounting firm. Our values, accountability. We count all the assets of the world, we count all the people in the world, and we divvy it up, and we give you adequate. We're cost conscious. We don't want to spend any money on you people. Excellence, honesty, innovation, leadership, respect, and teamwork. And not only the equity, excellence, there's no honesty. I don't know how that got in. Innovation, leadership, and respect and teamwork is just referring to their team. So we can't waste any more time bitching and complaining about right and left. Forget about it. It doesn't matter. This has been going on for over, well, it's 2017, and the Fed was signed on in 1913, I believe it was. So there's over 100 years that they've had their way. And you can't be right and left saying, oh, okay, in the last 113 years, only the left did anything bad. The right really cares about our nation. Give me a frickin' break. This is a team effort. You know, when McCarthy was running around in the 50s, and Norman Dodds, I believe that was also in the 50s, the Reece Commission, trying to find out what these damnable tax-exempt foundations were about, and the United Nations, you know who set it up, because it too is tax-exempt. So the Rockefellers and the Fords and the Carnegies, and there's a whole swack of the damn things. The Reece Commission was set up, Norman Dodd the head of it, trying to figure out what the hell these guys were up to. And Dodds, when he was talking to someone from the Ford Foundation, and the Ford Foundation asked him what the hell they were doing. And Dodds said, we're supposed to find out what you guys are doing. Well, that's easy. Our job is to Sovietize the West. Well, it said America, but that's the West. Sovietize the West. Norman Dodds said his secretary, principal secretary, ended up in a mental institution. When the realization came that the men that are behind they call it the shadow cabinet, if you will, these men that are put up on platforms high above everybody else, that the masses are to look up to, the Rockefellers and the Fords and the Carnegies, are working to take down the nation and Sovietize it. And the Rockefellers and the Fords and the Carnegies and a multitude of others have been given a free ride. You're supposed to look at these men with respect. These men should have all been taken to the gallows a long, long time ago. And when McCarthy was running around in the 50s talking about, you know, they had the Red Scare, which was basically World War I, and the second Red Scare, which was World War II. And now we're into World War III, which is spiritual psychological war. This is Red Scare 3. If you ever watched a baseball game, 3 strikes and you're out. So call it bottom of the 9th, and your batter's up. You're sitting on 2 strikes. The game rests on this next swing. We either win this or we lose it. And I don't believe we're supposed to lose this one. We've had all this time to wake up. Instead of waking up, most people got into a deeper coma. But they are starting to wake up a little bit. And again, I have no real use for Donald Trump. He's a businessman. And if you look at the takedown of Russia when the Iron Curtain fell, it was the business class and the politicians that went in and picked the bones of Russia. And that's exactly what's taking place here in the West now. Our bones are being picked. Everything that you built, everything that was supposed to be public is being privatized, and they are picking it up. Because, like Rockefeller said, something has to take the place of government, and business seems to be the obvious entity to do it. And that is your global corporate government by the United Nations is what they've been trying to build. And they're almost there. But they've got us belly aching about these little things down on the ground that don't matter. And I want to know when, if in fact Trump said that he wants out of the United Nations, then you all ought to be writing letters to Mr. Trump saying, then that's good, and let's pull them flags down off those poles in New York and put our flags up there, and let's vacate the premises. Let's take the land and the building. And Mr. Trump knows all about how to get land. And put it to a good use. Either homeless shelters or vet housing. And I would like to talk to the vets too right now because, you know, I felt bad for you guys when I was a young guy and Vietnam was going on. I mean, that was more than obvious what was going on there. And we did have, I'm in a little town here, but we're just north of Detroit a couple hours, and we would have, what would they call those things? Deserters, I guess, or AWOL. Young guys, man. Saying screw this noise, and they bailed out of the States and came up here. Why in the hell would an 18-year-old kid want to go get his head blown off when he's 18 years old? That's stupid. So the smarter ones said screw this and headed out of there. But the vets, you guys, whether you believed it or not, we're not fighting for freedom. Okay? You're just corporate. You're a corporate military force. Aiding and abetting the corporation. And any of you that went to war probably lost some friends. Maybe you got shot up. But this is your nation. And you're military men. You need to stand up. You know, the vets should be pissed beyond imagination. And I don't want to see a scene like in that 13-part made-for-television series called America with a K, when all this background bureaucracy was put into place just like what we suffer from today. And the whole movie was about exactly what Ford told Dodge was the Sovietization of America. And if you've never watched it, for God's sake, sit down and watch it. And it's long. It's 13 parts, man, and I think it's an hour a piece. Very long, but you can skip through it and bypass the filler. And if you're any good at all, you'll know what you're looking for once you get into it. But I mean, at the beginning of that movie, or near the beginning of that movie, Christopherson, who's the main player in the movie, who had run as an independent, who had been an anti-Vietnam guy, which put him at odds with his conservative family, trying to explain what's going on. He ran as an independent, ended up in a re-education camp, and before they could get out of that re-education camp, they had to swear an oath to the flag. And the flag consisted of the American flag on the one side, the Russian flag on the other side, joined together in the middle by the United Nations flag. If you don't get that, then you ain't got nothing going yet. But there's a scene down there where the bunch of old vets, really old vets, and one of their representatives or somebody from a board was speaking, and I think they may have had their, like, Pelosi always reminds me of one of these Russian agents. Even when I watched that America with a K, I kept thinking this is Pelosi's domain here. But they're speaking there, and it's in a town square or whatever, and you got this ragtag group of old vets standing there, looking completely beaten. And I'm sitting there looking at their faces. I'm thinking, these guys are standing there. They thought they went and fought for their country. They lost their brothers and sisters, their friends. Standing there just done. And we can't have that. If our military is not going to stand up and protect us, then you ain't got a military. You got a bunch of traitors with guns, is what you got. I mean, Canada's getting right off the deep end. Our Minister of Military, or whatever they call it, Armed Forces, whatever it's called here, has a towel on his head. There's no European blood in this guy. The Minister of Immigration and now Refugees is a Muslim. Which I don't believe really would contract as or could be qualified as a European. Got a Muslim mayor in Calgary. We got a Muslim mayor, I think, on the East Coast. These people make up basically no percentage of the population, and they're rising to these positions of power. And we got to get our act together. We have got to get our act together. Now, this is basically the gist of what's going on here. Okay, and this was this was page 27 from the Ref World document. I should put that back in because I don't know who was listening where last night. Let me just find that thing and I'll stuff it back in here. And again, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't make any difference what country you're from. You can just replace Canada and with whatever country you're in. Now, I sent this to somebody this morning, and they said, this picture of this kid on the front, you can't really even tell Is it a boy or a girl? Is it gay? Is it going to be transgendered? What the hell is it? It's a research paper, and it is the compatibility of the 1954 Convention relating to the status of stateless persons of Canada's legal framework and its human international rights obligations. And this goes for every single country because they're all member states of the United Nations. Now, it's a fairly lengthy, it's not a lot longer than 149 pages, which is really diddly squat. If you know how to read quickly, if you know how to bounce around to get what you're looking for, it's a good reference piece, and it really doesn't take that god-awful long to digest. But it's well worth the read. And it will hopefully lead you to other things. I mean, that's how I research. I mean, something will perk my interest or have a question. I got to go track it down, and you find some information. And once you get to a place like this, Ref World, which is Refugee World, then you can go and track this stuff to your stuff in your particular area or your particular country, and go from there with it. But the idea is you have to continue the research. I'll put this in there for people haven't read it before. Now, if you're listening and not in the chat, you can get this last document I put in. It and several others have loaded up recently onto my Facebook, which is Rock the Boat Radio on Facebook, and you can get the documents there, or you can just put in Ref World, REF World, and it will bring you up that, and you have to find that document. It's Precarious Legal Status Canada is basically the title of it, so you can find it there if you need to. But where did I put that page? Page 127 from Ref World. Case law has established that an illegal immigrant in Canada who intends to make the jurisdiction his or her permanent home may acquire a new domicile in Canada, even though they're illegally in Canada, or illegality in Canada arises from a breach of immigration law. Okay? So, you know, when Obama and Bush, they weren't kicking people out, and Clinton, they're all talking about, well, we're full of illegal immigrants, what are we going to do with them? Well, logic states kick them out. Logic states, but the United Nations, of which they're all pushing, states no, you have to accommodate them. That's when you got all that noise about, well, we should just give them amnesty. We should just nationalize them. But they're not here lawfully or legally, right? They sidestepped the front door and snuck in through the back door and have been thieving from the people free medical, housing, clothing, food, education, so on and so forth. Given driver's licenses on undocumented aliens. How ludicrous. So this has been going on for some period of time, and it needs to stop. All migrants/illegals are entitled to adequate housing, food, education, social assistance, medical. Why? Because the UN Universal Human Rights, the so-called government signed on to, everyone has the right to adequate, which trumps the domestic laws of all nations. So now while we are trying to keep a roof over our heads and food on our tables, we are on the hook to provide for those flooding into our nations. Why are we putting up with this? I mean, if somebody came and snuck through the back door of your house and you went and they're laying on your couch and you said, well, everyone has the right. What's for dinner? Well, are you working? No, I don't intend to. I don't need to because I have the right to. Be in your home, which is your nation, and you will provide for me. Now, how many people would allow a stranger to move into their house and be that demanding? That's not charity, folks. Okay? That's tyranny. Legalized tyranny. And we need not to be putting up with that anymore. You know, I see lots of people on Facebook up here in the Canada sites going on about, you know, I'd take Harper back in a minute. That just shows you total ignorance, or you're just one of the players, because most of the internet is about players and it's about controlled opposition. Most of it. I'm going to say the high 90% of it is, if you have anybody barking off about right left, then you know they're either a player, a fool, then you shouldn't be paying any attention. Anywhere you go that is, damn lefties and the liberals or the Democrats, I can't wait till we get the right wing in here. Well, it's the same, two wings on a bird, two boots on a soldier, taking us where you don't want to end up. Bird's going to fly in a wall and the boots are going to walk you off a cliff. A lousy ending, either way. It is time we get busy. I think we have, dare I use their language, adequate knowledge at this point in time that we put out a notice to all of our officials, not our officials, because we're things to them, we're assets to them, and now we've turned into liabilities. I think we should just put out a simple notice that, we know, we see, and you stop or we're coming to get you. And that would be a lawful position because it's against the law to cause anyone harm, and our so-called elected officials are working 24/7 harming us, and that's an unlawful position, and they need to be held accountable for the harm that they're causing the men, women, and children of our nations. I mean, we got to get over all this legality bullshit, because that's all it is, bullshit. A bunch of guys sat down and made up a bunch of shit that doesn't really exist in reality. They're all, what do they call those things? They're all abstract concepts. Something created in the mind. And what they create in their minds is ways to deceive us, to enslave us, to rob us, to keep us down, which is all forms of causing harm. And that is unlawful. And therefore, they do need to be held accountable. They think that they're not accountable in the way the legal system's set up, the way it protects itself from us. Well, it feeds on us and causes us harm. But we need to just dispense with this legal nonsense completely and get back to law, which is moral and equitable. Legal is amoral and not equitable, and that shows its face very, very well. So, yep, it's showtime, and it's a fantastic time to be alive because there are batters at the plate, the pitcher's on the mound. They got strike two against us. And when that bat swings the next time, it had better be a home run for the good guys. And the good guys are the majority of the population on the planet. It's a very, very, very small group of amoral, greedy, manipulating, deceiving, ugly men and women who have conned us into this abstract concept of willful, acceptable slavery. And, it's just like a bubble, just give it a pinprick and it's not there anymore. Poof, gone. And so it's a very interesting time to be alive. I'm absolutely, I feel almost, what do I feel besides frustrated? I feel almost that I'm an extremely lucky guy. I was a kid that was called insolent, obnoxious. I was the kid who made teachers nuts by asking them pertinent questions, which they didn't want to answer. I was a kid in school that was told I had an attitude. And at first, when they tell me, I said, what the hell I do? I got an attitude. What's that mean? I got a bad attitude. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know, a bad attitude. Later on in school, and teacher said something like that to me, I said, well, thank you for noticing. That really pissed them off. I'm not easily subdued. I'm not subduable. I know right from wrong. And everything that's being done to us is wrong. And we need to set it right. And that's why we need to rock the boat. Because the world is upside down. We were born in law and almost instantly taken from law and enslaved by legal. I saw an interesting quote somewhere today, and I think it was actually in an old Webster's dictionary, and I can't remember. I think it might have been under the word diverse or diversity or something. And this is exactly what's happened. We were taught that God created man in his own image. And whatever word I was looking at in Webster's said, and man created God in his image. That's the flip. That's the flip. That's the deception. Let no man deceive you. So what we have is we have a small group. I can't say they're not highly intelligent. I can't say that. But they are on the wrong side of this. You see, because God created man and gave him dominion. So now man created God, and they are the gods and they have dominion. So this small group of men who made themselves God and turned us into humans, which by definition is an animal. A human and a man have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with each other. They are opposites. So we are basically the cattle and the chattel. And we plow the fields like the oxen and the cattle. We work for them. Now you see the Jewish connection here, right? Okay? We're supposed to serve them and work for them and plow their fields and grow their food and yada, yada, yada. That's a switch out. Now, I am not a theologian. I have the KJV search engine, which I use to balance these words that I look up between that and etymology and Webster's to try to get a handle on these words. But I am not one of these people who has read every word and studied every word in the Bible. I've never done that. I find it a very difficult thing to read. It's almost difficult as a UN document. The UN documents, I got those things figured out. I haven't had time to sit down and go through the Bible with a fine-tooth comb. But the fact of the matter is that that book can be used both for good and evil. But my understanding, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that at some point God told the Jews to piss off, right, and run them out. And they've been pissed about that ever since. And they want world domination. You see, because they can't have, they're not supposed to have a nation. I think this is correct. There's something about they're not supposed to have a nation until the Messiah returns or something. And they ain't waiting. They want the nation. They want all the nations. And they want to control all the nations. And they want to control all the men and women. And, there's a reason the Jews were kicked out everywhere that they ever landed into. Because they're deceivers and manipulators. And we've allowed ourselves to be deceived and manipulated, and this is where we ended up at. But it's time to get out the big broom. And is the host in chat? Yes, he is. Cicero. Yeah, there's another guy that everybody should pay attention to. I think we discussed that last night. About treason and traitors. But it's okay because we're going to win. And I don't think we want to wait for, it's a very fine balance. If you swing too early, you're out. If you swing too late, you're out. If you swing too high, you're out. If you swing too low, you're out. I've had a lot of people in the past tell me, we'll just go get a bunch of guns and we'll just go to the municipal hall and arrest everybody. Well, that ain't going to fly. Okay, that's what they want you to do. Okay, so they can come down on you a ton of rocks and they got lots of crap to put out in the media. Right? So that anybody that's trying to inform people about what's going on are going to close their ears down even tighter. And that would be swinging too soon. So, that this swing of the bat is all about timing. And we're not quite there yet, but we're getting extremely close. And we need to prepare ourselves for it. And we need to take our nations back. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We have got to take our nations back. We have got to rid ourselves of these treasonous dogs. They're handing us over to be slaughtered, to be imprisoned. The whole game is to destroy the whole idea of a nation state. So there will be only one state. That will be the global state, run by the same guys and controlled by the same guys that created the debt, that created the depressions, that created the wars, the most amoral group of people. And what they want is that global nation state, which goes right back to the Jews or the Zionists, or whatever the hell you want to call them. So when we swing that bat, the timing had better be right. And that ball needs to get over the fence. And then we pick up all these evil, amoral SOBs and bring them to trial, or just go build a place someplace and fence it and then drop them in there and put them to work and see how they like it. I'm not really into violence. I don't believe it's necessary. I think we can do this without much violence. The less violence, the better. But we have to prepare ourselves for this. And I don't want to hear about people having their little go bag so when the shit hits the fan, they can run away. If that's your attitude, you're already dead anyways. And you're no matter to anybody. This is about men and women standing up for what is right. And they cannot overpower us. There's too many of us. They know it. That's why they manipulate us through the media, through entertainment, through religion, through politics, through the legal system. All fictional bullcrap. And people are becoming more and more aware of that all the time. And that's good. You know, I think one of the biggest problems people have is when they start to realize what they've been subjected to, they tend to get very angry and want to, do something today. I found out about this yesterday, and today we got to take them. Just settle down. And then you have the other people who, and I have friends who've done this. I mean, I was doing it back in the 70s, trying to explain to people what was coming. Nobody wanted to hear about it. I got yelled at a lot. Canada's the best country in the world. If you don't like it, why don't you just leave? Why don't you pull your head out of your ass and look around? A lot of denial, but I have some very good friends who did a lot of research and then went out into the public to try to explain to the public what the hell was going on. But, they're yammering on stuff about Rothschild and the Jesuits and all this stuff that just people can't compute. Just can't compute. Don't want to hear about it. And these people work very hard, doing what they thought they needed to do. And then they got frustrated and threw their hands up in the air that nobody wanted to hear or listen to anything. Well, it was too soon. It was too soon. People didn't have their backs shoved against the wall hard enough. And it's unfortunate because it breaks a lot of these guys and gals. They put it all in and they come out empty and they're broken. And I always try to tell those people, just back off and try to heal up, keep researching, right? Stay on top of this, because the day's coming when your voice is going to be required and people will listen. And I don't think we're that far away from it now. We do, although, have to make a concerted effort to explain to people. I don't care if you do videos or you stuff up on your Facebook or you do blogs or websites. We have to try and nullify all of the NGO voices any way we can. We need to get on top of it. We have to, they're pushing this direct democracy nonsense, which is straight out of the UN, as was Black Lives, as was Idle No More, as was Occupy. This is all coming out of the same house. And we need to explain that to people, because people get involved in these things and they kind of die off, and then the next comes along and the same people jump on board with that. And we really need to diffuse that stuff. And one of the things we really need to diffuse, well, two of the things we really need to diffuse right now is this idea of direct democracy. And we don't want democracy, because democracy, like the word party in etymology means to divide, and they do a very good job. The parties do a very good job of dividing the people. That's their job. And the other word is democracy, which comes from Demotek, which means to divide the common people. And so we don't want democracy, because we don't want a divided people. A divided nation cannot survive itself. And that's what they've done to us. So we need to get on some of this stuff and explain it to whoever will listen to it, but we got to get it out there, and we have to stomp on this nonsense of direct democracy. We have to stomp this idea out about this guaranteed income. We need to explain to people what this guaranteed income is, and who's going to administrate it. And it all goes back to the universal human rights doctrine. Everyone has a right to adequate. That's our vision, which is their vision, and we, which is them, wish to impose upon the world. We have to really get on that kind of stuff. Excuse me. Excuse me. I think I need a drink of something here. And this is something that we can do. We got to be like the canary in the coal mine kind of thing. Not to scare people. You don't want to scare anybody. You want to inform them. You want to get some knowledge to them. But you don't want to strike fear into them. They're already fearful, right? You want to soothe them with some knowledge and help them to understand that that's our job. If we have the knowledge, then we must become the teachers and help these people to understand, because we need to build a proper base of people. If you go to church, you need to explain to the church people that this is not what you think it is. Okay, this has been hoodwinked. And I have a document here, I guess I will stick in. And this was a document that I used, I don't know when that was, I forget, back in the 2007, somewhere between 2007, 2009, whatever, 2010, which when I was running around to the churches looking for bodies, I figured that made sense to me. But then once I got talking to them and the coldness, I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? So I did some research and came up with a document that explains how the churches got taken over, just like everything got taken over. That document is very telling. And it is called Rise of the Global Green Religion. And it is very, very in depth as to how they took over the churches and got the churches to start to spew and indoctrinate their church people, I guess, into accepting the UN agendas without ever telling them that. That's the whole way they put this through. Nobody gets told, although it's all written down. Nobody reads anything. So they go to the church and the preacher tells them this stuff about, what is the word that we are supposed to be good stewards of the land or something. Well, that's true, but they spun that into environmentalism. Okay, and I've talked to lots of church people, right? And they go, well, no, it says right in the Bible we're supposed to be good stewards of the land. Well, fine, but that's not what's going on here. Okay, you're being manipulated. But this particular document, it just takes the lid off of that scam. And so if you know people, I'll put this in, if you do go to church or you know someone goes to church, give them the document. I mean, I gave this document to a Lutheran minister when I was looking for a place to hold meetings and that. The other churches, the coldness was just brutal because they're not who they say they are. And when I got to this Lutheran guy, his kid's in school, and he's ticked off about what they're doing to them in the school. And I could, why you got him in school, right? Get him the hell out of there. And I give him the document and said, read this. And I give him a book of 1984, which he never read, which he wanted to. And we talked for a couple of hours, and I left him with this document. And I was running around to meetings all over Hell's Half Acre at the time, and it was, I don't know, a couple, 3 weeks, a month after our meeting, of which he agreed. He said, I don't need to think about it. And you want the keys, you call me, you got the keys. But when the time I got back to him, he wasn't here no more. And my neighbor just happens to go to Lutheran church, and I asked him what happened to the preacher, and they said they moved him out of here. And I would imagine it had a lot to do with this document, because I don't think he had any intentions of going anywhere. But I'm sure, because Lutheran Church is mentioned in this document, I'm sure he made a couple of phone calls to somebody in the church, probably higher ups, and zoop, he's out of here. And Ronnie don't get to use the church. So I'll put this in there. It's worth reading. If you haven't read it, read it. If you have read it, then please pass it along to other people. This is about moving this knowledge now. It's the useful knowledge, not the. I'm not into scare tactics here. I'm not Alex Jones. The thing that Jews fear the most. This is from Cicero. That's a great name. And this is in the chat. The thing the Jews fear most is a nation with a strong national identity and strong patriotism. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, just like you're not supposed to be anti-Semitic, and that is so that you can't say anything negative about a Jew, even though I found out, I mean, I was amazed when I found out that you don't have to be of the Jewish faith to be a Jew. They have atheist Jews and humanist Jews and all this kind of stuff. You know, Jewism is a society, basically. It has nothing to do with a faith in God. And but it's true, because you know, you can almost put anti-Semitism up against nationalism, because you see, if you say you're a nationalist, immediately you're tagged as a Nazi or some other nefarious word. Nationalism is a bad word. You can't be anti-Semitic and you can't be a nationalist. Well, if you're not a nationalist, then what the hell are you? And this is about breaking down the nations. We don't need nations. Nations are bad. Nations create war. Nations create sickness and poverty and all kinds of bad things. Nations are bad. And it's absolutely, again, upside down, backwards. And that's why we got to flip this boat. I love that scene, and I don't watch movies. You know, I maybe watch a movie every 10 years or something. I don't watch many movies at all. I have time for it because I know what they're all about. But I have friends that tell me about the TV shows now. There's a show called Mary Kills or something that's about basically accepted murder/suicide. You call up Mary, I guess, and Mary will say, you know, you say, I'm having a bad day, Mary. Can't take this no more. Could you come over and fix me up? Absolutely. You know, all these weird shows. I mean, they start out very, very slowly, and what really shocks people at one point becomes normal at the next point, so they take it up to the next level, and they keep raising the bar on you until the most destructive ugliness becomes normal. But this idea that nation states are bad is I don't know how they even managed to put that out on the TV sets and the newscasts and that, you know. But I mean, it was when I was talking last night, you know, I'm a gentleman I had a great deal of respect for, who wrote the Canadian Encyclopedia. He ran in the election, I think, back around 90, somewhere in there. Mel Hertig, publisher, Jew. But I let that go because he was a nationalist. And of all the candidates, he ran the National Party. And every time he stepped up in the media, it was nationalism is bad, right? Now, there's no hope in hell Mel or the National Party was going to be elected, so what the hell's going on? Well, they put that up. They put Mel up there so that they could attack nationalism. And I felt bad for Mel because he was a very articulate speaker, very intelligent man, and I let the Jew part go. And he started the Council of Canadians. And then Maud Barlow took it over. And once I got looking into this a little bit deeper, especially Maud Barlow, hooked up with Maurice Strong and hooked up with the UN. This is not the Council of Canadians. This is the Council of the United Nations. So I called Mel out in Vancouver, had a great talk with him. And I'll never forget that conversation I had with him because they said, you know, Mel, you started the Council of Canadians, right? Yeah. And Maud Barlow's running now. Oh, fine woman, says Mel. Well, I'm not so sure about this, Mel. So I'm going to lay some stuff on you, and you're probably going to be very, very angry with what I'm about to tell you. So do us both a favor and don't hang up, okay? Because I know you're going to be angry. So you can just scream and rant and yell, but don't hang up. So I told him about Maud Barlow being a Trojan horse while Mel went right off the deep frickin' end. And I'm holding the phone out here. How dare you say anything bad about Maud Barlow? Or David says, so he finally settled down. Just don't hang up, Mel. Let her rip, but don't hang up. And he gets back. He says, settle down. He goes, who the hell is this? That's how me and Mel Hurtig met. And we had some pretty interesting conversations. I sent him some documentation. And he wrote me back, and he said, as hard as this for me to accept, you are absolutely correct about Maud Barlow. Now, I thought, okay, that's a pretty good thing. You know, that's a pretty honest guy. And he did write the book, The Death of Canada. And so I got snooping around some more and came across the United Nations Parliamentary Assembly website, which is about a United Nations Parliamentary Assembly, which supersedes your government, made up of politicians and senators and professors and all of this kind of stuff. And so I'm rooting around. I see Maud Barlow's name. Well, that's how, Maud Barlow was a featured member. And after talking to Mel about the Westminster Statute, of which a friend of mine is a very deep researcher, and he says, geez, you're talking to Mel Hurtig. That's Mr. Canada. He says, like, ask him about the Westminster Statute. And I said, yeah, good idea. And so when I phoned Mel back, and we'd had several conversations. We were getting very friendly with each other now. He wanted me to come and have lunch with him in Toronto when he was down here to have his book, or to promote his book. But things fell apart before that happened, and Mel's dead now. That's unfortunate. I would have always liked to have met the man. But when I phoned him up and asked him about the Westminster Statute, Mel said, I never heard of it. I go, what? I mean, this is a guy that wrote the encyclopedia, the Canadian Encyclopedia, and he'd never statute. So I told my friend Doug, he said, that makes no sense. I said, absolutely. So I got back rooting around on Mel, and ended up back at the UNPA. And while Maud Barlow and David Suzuki and Lloyd Ashford and the other Canadians were features, I went down through the whole list of Canadians attached to this. And whose name pops up? Anymore, and I don't believe that's possible. In fact, I'm sure that's not possible then. After I went through all of this stuff, it finally dawned on me that, there's a simple adage that once you see, you cannot not see, and once you know, you cannot not know, and when you get to that point, you can no longer be deceived. And that's just the way it is. Okay, so you got to really pay attention. And wire static. Oh, shit. I tell you what happened there. How's that? Is that any better? I'm back. Okay. My cat got a hold of, started chewing them on my, it started chewing on my wires here. So hopefully that's clearer now. So some days I wonder, I really too wonder why I even do this. Um, but I don't have a choice. I see Hal's in here now. Hello, Hal. How are you? And here's another guy that probably wonders why he does what he does all the time he does it. Um, uh, but he knows he has to do it. He ain't got no choice in the matter. He has an ingrained duty about him, and he's doing his duty. And we try like hell to encourage people to read, to understand, to talk to other people. I get people all the time going, "Well, I guess we're screwed now." Well, we're not screwed. We're at the best possible place we could be. Okay? Don't look at this as the end. Look at this as the beginning. This is the beginning, not the end. People say, "Well, what can I do?" I said, "Just do it. Just keep talking, keep teaching, and keep shining that damn light on it." Okay? This is the moment. They talk about the Enlightenment, which was really the darkening. As far as, would you get off of my wires, cat? Stop it. This is the time of enlightenment. This is the time that the common man can open his eyes and open his mind and accept and understand all the deceit and deception and lies that we've put up with all these years. So we're going to win it, and it's going to be a glorious time. And those clips I put in at the beginning of that rep down in the States, forget which season, one of the upper small states there. And but he's actually in government of some government, and he's taken them to task. And that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. That here's an elected official not only taking his fellow elected officials to task, but helping them to understand what is wrong. That's huge. The other huge part of this gentleman is he's 86 years old, which means nobody has an excuse not to engage and share these knowledges. This old guy at 86 can be doing what he's doing, and you're 36, 46, 56, 66, 76, or even 96, and you're still breathing, then you have a duty to help change this around so that it works. I get so sick. I've been sick of that ever since I was a really young guy. This stupid statement, if there's nothing we can do about it, you can't fight City Hall. You can't, I mean, that was ingrained in us since we were little. You can't do anything about it. They will do whatever they want. Well, how the hell does anybody accept that nonsense? I was so disheartened when they were putting these windmills up around here. And this old guy, he was in his 80s. I think he was 86 or 87 years old. And that had been a third generation farm or something. And the price of the farmland where the windmills was dropped drastically because word was out these things are not easy to live around. And this old guy was going to take the town or the municipality to task, and I thought, this is wonderful. And I talked to him on the phone once, and And he talked like he should talk. He should talk like a man. And he wasn't going to put up with this, and he's going to do something. I was really pleased because I said, oh, man, here's another old guy that's still got some stamina, still got a mind, and still got some spine. Brilliant. So a few days later, I called him back, and I said, I'd like to come out and do an interview with you. And film this. And I don't know what happened from the first time I talked to the second time I talked to him, but it wasn't like I was talking to the same guy at all. He was like a broken man. He went from, we got to do something to, well, it's just a waste of time. There's nothing we can do about it anyways. You can't fight City Hall. And if you think you can fight City Hall, you're a fool. Now, I don't know who'd been talking to him, probably some of his family. He was probably so jacked up and so pissed off about what was going on and probably, relayed that to his family that he's going to fight these people. And you're hearing, oh, come on, Grandpa or Dad, you're too old to get into a fight now. Just let it be. It'll be okay. Even if you take a loss of 50 or 75,000 bucks on the farm, you're still set. You're still okay. Just let it ride. I think that's probably what happened. And that's how we keep ourselves down. It's not them so much to keep us down. I mean, they use the trickery and the deception in that, but when it comes time to go at them, everyone tells you it's not worth the trouble. Others have tried and failed. Just keep your head down, keep working, and you get through this. It's very difficult to take that kind of attitude because that's the kind of attitude that got us here. I mean, when I first watched Spartacus, when I was, probably around 12 years old, Spartacus and his buddies are going, what the hell's going on? We're freaking slaves. This is bull crap. So he goes to it's the same crap's going on today. He goes to his people and he says, yo, wake up here. We're slaves. Well, yeah. Well, doesn't that piss you off? You're being held in servitude? Well, we don't think about it too much. We're busy working here and that. And we do get to go to the Coliseum on the weekends and stuff. Back then, you went to the Coliseum for free. Now you pay some ridiculous amount of money to buy a ticket from a scalper to go see some team that's just a corporate team. So, which slavery was better, really? I mean, you go out and you work and you travel and you commute to try to make enough money to get food on the table and pay your bills, where back then you were provided with food, you were provided with housing, you were provided with entertainment. So the slaves in the old days actually had it much better than the slaves of today, which is all of us. But, Spartacus is trying to get these people woke up. But they don't want to wake up. Yeah, we understand we're slaves, but, it could be worse. It could be worse. They provide for us. As long as we do what we're told and don't get too uppity, then it's all good. And this is the same attitude we have today. Nothing's really changed that way. But what really irritates me is that Douglas is a Jew. So when I watched the movie when I was 12 years old, I'm going, go get him, guys. And now when I think back on it, I'm thinking, wait a minute. This is propaganda telling us to lay down. Because in the end, these guys are all up on the poles. Which the message is, yeah, you're all slaves, but don't try and stand up, because this is what's going to happen to you. Now, Douglas was one of the guys that went after McCarthy so hard. But then Douglas is a Jew. It's really quite pathetic. But we're going to win this time. I remember seeing a thing about Rockefeller wanting the internet shut down because the information was starting to fly. Because you understand, they write everything down. Everything is written down. And I guess if it's written down, then whether we read it or not, silence is consent, I guess, is their attitude. It was there to be read. Why didn't you read it? Not our problem. You know, they just kind of bypass the disclosure part and forget about it. But it's all written down. And Rockefeller's getting real nervous about it. So what are we going to do? You got to shut it down. Well, we can't shut it down, Rocky, because your whole freaking world government crap depends on this internet. You can't have what you want without this internet. So what did they do? They flooded the internet with disinfo. They flooded the internet with control groups. And that's why I say, you know, a high 90% of whatever you're going to hear on the internet is probably bullcrap. You know, I went through years fighting this left-right thing, you know. Oh, you got to go listen to this. This is on this station or that station. I go, well, that's a right-wing station. Well, yeah. Well, then they don't know what they're talking about. Because if they're just pushing the right wing as the answer to the problem, then they're the problem. But this is how they keep you divided. But anyways, those we're almost out of time here. But I got to look more into. I forgot what his name is. The old guy from the States there. I don't remember which state it is. It's one of the small states, not Connecticut. I don't think one of those little states up in there, anyways. But he has a really good handle on things, and I really hope that people take the time to listen. And he goes way back in history with some really old court cases and stuff. And he has no respect for the judge whatsoever, nor should he, nor should you. These are your basic slave masters, and you know, he's basically at the principal's office, and because they always want to keep you in the child position, and you know, she's trying to figure out how she's going to discipline him, and she's not doing very well with it. And this is what knowledge does. You know, we shake them to the core. But while our particular legal systems are falling apart on purpose, I think it was in Alberta just recently, they dumped about, I think it was 15 cases where there was actually murder charges and pretty heinous crimes that they said, you know, we're overwhelmed. We don't have enough judges. We don't have enough this. We don't have enough resources. So we can only hold on to these guys for a reasonable amount of time, and then we got to dump the cases. Now, people are going, what's going on? Our system's falling apart. Well, it's falling apart on purpose. Because the international law is your new law. And if you don't like the law on your land now, you really ain't going to like what's coming at you. But we don't have law, and they don't have international law. This is all legal, corporate nonsense. And we got to get back to law and man. And law and man are synonymous with one another. Legal and man, oil and water. Legal and human, I suppose, these are the policies on how you look after your animals. I suppose if you looked at legal that way. But legal has nothing to do with a man. And if we intend to be men in our nations, on our lands, then we have to get back to law. And if we can't get back to law, we're lost, and we'll continue to be lost. And we will never find the freedom that we seek. And that's just the way it is. Now, Hal's on deck at 3. Tune into him. Now, this week coming up, Michael Schmidt, who has been steadfast in his morality for the past 22, 23 years now, where Rome, or our provincial government, has used every despicable trick in the book to try and silence Michael. They have, his farms. He's had to divest himself of everything in order to keep the farm. It's into not a collective, but a whatever. But he continues, and he ain't laying down ever. Starting tomorrow, through the whole week, a 5-day trial is taking place against Michael and 3 or 4 other gentlemen for the raid that the so-called government of the Romans, I guess, raided his farm again a year ago, October, and they're just doing whatever they can. And I'm sure at the end of the 5-day trial, we'll come out smelling like rose. And they've been doing this, like I said, for over 20 years now, and they have not managed to shut this man down yet. And this is the difference between moral and amoral, law and legal. Legal is amoral, and law is moral. And Michael is a moral man, which means he's a man in law. They are a deceptive, deceitful group of people on the legal side, and legal is amoral. It says so. It's defined as amoral. And so I've always been a firm believer that a moral man who stands his ground will become victorious. The trial starts tomorrow at 9:30 in Walkerton, Ontario, at the Walkerton Courthouse. Easy to find, small town. I think it's on Cayley Street. And it runs for the full week, 5 days. And if you are in that neck of the woods at all, please drop by and show support and watch how this court operates. This is one ugly little court. I've been there. I've been assaulted there several times. But we just keep smiling at them. And they hate that. 9:30, I think, is what time the trial starts each day. And it starts tomorrow in Walkerton, Ontario, Cayley Street. And again, if you get there, go there. If not, slide over to support Michael Schmidt on Facebook and say hi. Okay, I guess we're out of time. Don't forget, Hal, Behind the Woodshed on at 3.
Selling lies and buying time, killing people that's in line. Lower classes, social slime, they don't matter. Genocide, sick from water, sick from air. Making money, they don't care. Caesar shit, force of air. Fuck them back, it's only